Hello and welcome to Connecting with Your Grandchildren. My name is Chris Patrick. I am a registered nurse and I'm also a certified dementia specialist and a educator, and I've been in healthcare for 40 plus years. And today we're going to be talking about connecting with your grandchildren. Family relationships throughout history has identified grandparents as playing an integral part of helping parents guarantee the physical survival of their children. The involvement of grandparents can help with grandchildren's resilience and overall health development. Researchers at a Melbourne university recently took a different approach and demonstrated that cognitive benefits to grandparents of minding a grandchild for 1 day per week. So to say the least, it seems that embracing the grandparent-grandchild connection leads to benefits on both sides. Many of us grandparents have opportunities to develop an exclusive place in our grandchildren's lives. This was easier to do when families stayed closer to the location they grew up in. But if your grandchildren are far away, you want to see them whenever possible, and we can become modern modes of communication that has made that possible. We take on many roles as grandparents: advisor, encourager, advocate, cheerleader, and that's just to name a few. Whether we see our grandchildren once a week, every day, or monthly via Zoom, our connection to our grandchildren has been proven to be important. So be the best grandparent you can be. Although I'm presenting this program, I am a grandparent to seven grandchildren, 4 boys and 3 girls. I'm certainly not the expert. There are many books written by grandparenting, by child psychologists, and experts in human development. But the best advice comes from those who have grandparented before us and what worked for them. Because we know that each family dynamic is different, each grandchild is different, each grandparent is different. One size does not fit all in this role, but following some practical advice may help you along the way. Hopefully at the end of this session, we can share other ideas that have worked for you. So when we're talking about grandparenting, we have to look at expectations. I once heard someone say expectations are preconceived resentments. It's often true that our disappointments are fueled by unmet expectations. Pay attention to the oughts and the shoulds statements rolling around in your head, particularly concerning your relationship with your grandchildren and your children. He should call more. She should consult me about this. That's only going to set you up for failure. These unrealistic expectations feed that disappointment and discouragement, while realistic expectations keep you engaged and content with where your relationship is right now. If your preschool-aged grandchild FaceTimes all of 15 seconds with you and then heads off to another activity, that's pretty normal. If your teenage grandson doesn't call back or responds to your text right away, that's also normal. Don't make it about you. Life doesn't always happen the way we think it should. And as grandparents, we must allow for busy seasons of life and a grandchild's growing maturity. So we need to know there is no grandparent prerogative. Marie, a grandmother whose son and daughter-in-law don't let her have kids for overnight. They used to, but Marge didn't follow the instructions for caring for their children. Bedtime was 8 o'clock, but Marge always got them in bed an hour or more later, obviously she wanted to spend more time with them. She also sometimes brought out cookies when mom and dad asked for sugar-free. It's grandma's prerogative to spoil them a bit, Marge would say. I don't see them very often. Keep in mind that there is no grandparent prerogative when it comes to grandkids. Even if you're not doing anything wrong or spoiling your grandchildren, I suggest that you bite your tongue and do things the parents' way. They are the authority in their kids' lives, and they need your respect and support. If you don't, you could jeopardize future connections with your grandchildren. Remember that you are now an extended family for your children and your grandchildren. Your son or your daughter has a family he or she must consider ahead of you. This is hard, I know, but it's important. Grandparents have years of experience they long to leverage in their kids' and grandkids' lives. Sometimes that desire to move from seeking influence to wanting control will happen. This can alienate relationships and bonding with your grandkids. When there are two valid ways to do something, and I want it done my way, it becomes a control issue. And it isn't about the relationship anymore. My marching orders are to love, to encourage, to accept, and to give wisdom when it's requested. My mother grandmothered from a distance before there was FaceTime or social media. She used the phone, mail, and personal visits when they could. When our children were young and not yet readers, she signed all her cards and notes with a simple hand-drawn heart and arrow. When they would open the card from their grandmother, the kids always knew who had sent it because of that heart. Staying connected on a regular basis builds trust and strengthens that relationship. Learn how to navigate social media to connect with your kids and older grandchildren. It's not that hard. If you need help navigating social media, all you have to do is invite a preteen, anywhere from an 8 to a 12-year-old to a 15-year-old into your house and have them give you lessons. Our grade school grandkids are all set up on Kids Messenger, and they communicate a lot with us that way. My sister's 16-year-old grandson, who lives out of state, called her to tell her that a girl likes him and he likes her back. He told her he wanted to ask her to a school dance, but was nervous about how to do it and afraid of being refused. He needed someone to listen and offer empathy. And I'm so glad that their connectiveness has already laid the groundwork for those conversations. My sister just had another one of her grandchildren. Unfortunately for my sister, who has 7 grandchildren, 4 of them live out of state. So her 12-year-old granddaughter just called her yesterday, as a matter of fact, and said that she got a note from a boy in school that said he liked her. So she was asking my sister for advice. She wasn't ready to talk to her mom about it. So, and my niece is very approachable, but sometimes they feel comfortable with one person or another. And she called my sister and she asked my sister for advice. And my sister, supported her in what she had planned on doing. But unfortunately, she called back the next day and told my sister that the boy did approach her. And she said, well, do you want to be boyfriend or girlfriend or not? And in a 12-year-old world, boyfriend and girlfriend means at school playing on the playground. It has a whole different connotation. And his reply to that was he thought about it overnight and felt like he was too young to have a girlfriend. So she walked away and was perfectly content with that answer. But he must have had a conversation with someone that said, you're really too young to do that. But it was nice that he was able to confide in my sister and talk, or she was able to confide in my sister and talk to her. So again, you have different connectiveness with each child. It's really important that we engage in their world and take an interest in their activities. Ask them to share school papers, show delight on when they get their first job. If you live close enough, help with homework, except for math, because math is all different right now. Attend their sporting events or choir concerts when you can. They know when you're there and when you're not there, even though you may get a head nod when you walk in, or a chin up when you walk in, or they may look across the basketball court at you and not even smile or wave when you smile or wave. They know you're there supporting them. So again, engaging in their world as much as you can. We often drive to soccer tournaments that are a bit farther away than their home games, but the kids love having us there. If you live too far away to attend, ask for a phone call, video, or FaceTime during the event so you can still be a part of your grandkids' world. I have a friend who has 8 grandchildren, and 5 of them live in Kansas, and 1 is making their first Holy Communion this weekend. And so they're leaving on Saturday and to spend all day Sunday at the communion, and then they'll return on Monday. So, you know, as grandparents living distance away, if we want to see those special events, it does take an effort on our part, unfortunately. Or fortunately, it keeps us young too. Find that one-on-one time. See them as individuals that are attempting to figure out what excites them. Even from a distance, you can interact one-on-one with your grandkids. I don't have any grandchildren that live out of the state, but I do have 3 grandchildren that live about 45 minutes away on good day. And so that's not a trip that we can make very easy. My other grandchildren live in Arlington Heights and Lake Zurich. So those I can easily get to. The one in Oak Lawn is a 45-minute trip on, 290, and it's a rugged trip because there's a lot of trucks and whatnot. So with all their school activities, we don't get out there as often as we like. So they each have their own phone. They're 12 to 17 or 13 to 17. So on any given day, I just might text them, thinking about you today, love you. I may get an answer back. I may get a smiley face. I may get a heart, but they know that I'm there and that I love them. So, and again, a lot of our grandparenting skills are either taught by our parents ourselves, or we learn them from people who are good grandparents. And so we try to foster the same things that they do. As they get older, talk to them directly to learn about the things that they're doing, who their friends are, and what they're passionate about. Now, my one granddaughter is 17. She'll be a senior next year. So we've had some conversations about what she wants to do. She's very quiet. She's a very introverted person. So I wasn't sure what she was going to do. She's a very talented artist. But she recently had some health issues and ended up in the hospital. And they were doing a lot of ultrasounds on her. And she knew that she thought she might want to do something in health careers, but she wasn't quite sure. And as we got to talking, she said, I think ultrasound might be a good fit for me. And we talked about that. And I asked her why. Why do you think that's a good fit for you? It's a wonderful job. It pays well. You'll never, want for a job. But she's the one that said, I'm a quieter person. I don't like a lot of noise. It seems to be a pretty controlled environment. I have one-on-one with that person. So now I can start fostering, if that's what she wants to do, I can start fostering her and encouraging her on what she needs to do next. And not making suggestions, but just encouraging and listening. It's really the parent's job to really guide them into one thing or another, but we can help with that. When you get to see them in person, try to get some one-on-one time. Grandparenting does allow us a second chance to influence the life of a child. So it's an encore of sorts where we become part of the supportive cast. That is, as we all know, if you're grandparents, that's the best thing about grandparenting. You can walk away from the discipline, you can walk away from the disagreements, and you can really just spend that time loving them and enjoying them. What I try to do, and everybody has a different way to do it, is my husband and I each take each child out for their birthday for breakfast. They seem to like that meal the best. And it's an occasion they know that we're going to be taking them out for breakfast for their birthday. So no one else in the family's invited. It's just grandma and grandpa. I'm Gigi, he's Papa, and one of the children. So it really is an enjoyable hour and a half that we get to spend with each of these kids. So we need to replace judgment with love. And there's going to be things that your grandkids' parents do that you don't agree with. And there will be choices that your grandchildren make that you're not going to agree with. Never sacrifice your bond on the altar of disagreement. Orange hair, let it go. And love them anyways. Tattoos, again, let it go. It may not be something that you do, but trends and traditions change, and they develop over time. And while I used to think that anybody who had a tattoo when I was younger was a drunken sailor, we know that tattoos are pretty common now. So again, don't judge, but love. Some friends of ours have a grandson who said he was gay, and their response to that grandson balanced truth with their love for that grandson. We don't feel this is best for you, but you'll always be ours. We love you. Acceptance doesn't mean agreeing. It means accepting the reality of your grandchild's circumstances and loving them through it. And they may feel that it's not best for them because they may see all the difficulty that their grandson will have in life because of, the discrimination that they find. But they let them know, I'm here, I support you, and we still love you. One of the ways that you can connect is through books. Books can be really the best continuing channels to your grandchild. When they're younger, sing lullabies and nursery rhymes and begin reading to them as soon as you can. Imprint this into their memory, the sound of their eurythmic voice and the rustle of a turning page. As they get older, read what your grandchildren are reading. Ask what they think. Talk briefly about what puzzled you, what pleased you or annoyed you. I have a 14-year-old granddaughter who's a very big reader, and she reads a lot of maybe more science fiction books. And I'm not a science fiction book reader. I love to read, but I'm reading biographies and true life crime, and I want the real stuff. But I had to put that aside and pick up those books and read one of them so I had a connection and I could ask her questions. So I also gave her books that her mom enjoyed when they were her age and suggested that she reread them, and maybe I would reread them myself. If you're lucky enough to do school pickups, I have found that the journey is an ideal time for a book discussion. The rush and the noise of the day is suspended temporarily, which offers the chance for reflection, and you never know where that conversation might lead. Now, we are very fortunate to, we don't pick up anymore, unless the weather is bad, but we do drop off our two grandsons at school every day because we're the closest to them. And then because they're 10 and 7 years old now, Mom and Dad have said it's okay if they walk home because they're only 3 blocks from the school, but they need to call us when they get home. We live probably not even 5 minutes away. So my one grandson has a watch that he can text on and talk into. not ready for a phone yet, but they can track him on this watch. It's an Apple technology. They can track him on the watch so they can see where he is walking home, him and Jake. But they can also, he can text anybody and he can call anybody. And so now that they're walking home from school on the nice days, I still have him calling me. And it's really not necessary because he calls his mom and dad when he gets in the door. But we've never said anything about him not calling us, my husband or I, because that's connecting with him one more day. So even if the phone call is, I'm home from school, Gigi, my response is, glad you made it home safely. How was your day at school today? And if you've had boys in your life, you know the answer is going to be fine. There's not going to be an in-depth conversation about it. Don't forget to grab a snack for yourself. And we have like a 2-second conversation, and I'm connecting with him. And then I talk to his brother. Conversation, 2 minutes tops. But again, it's staying connected. And again, I'm not the expert in this. I learn things every day. I learned a lot of my grandparenting skills from my older sister. My mom was not a real hands-on grandmother. She worked full-time. She owned her own business. My dad was a little more hands-on because by the time the grandkids came around, he was retired. So I really wanted to be more of a hands-on grandparent. And so I watched other people grandparent, and then my sister had her children first, and I watched her. So a lot of times we learn our different techniques and ideas from the people around us. Staying connected with extended family is important. Cousins, aunts, and uncles are in a special place between the nuclear family and the rest of the world. In today's small families, your grandchildren's older cousins can be especially important as just ahead role models, and their younger cousins can provide them with opportunities for practicing caregiving. By making occasions for groups of your grandchildren to get together, you can enrich their shared memories of childhood. Repeated family gatherings in one special place with the out of the ordinary activities like fishing, fruit picking, board games, make for especially vivid memories. We do an annual holiday in our immediate family, my sisters and their children and their grandchildren and my 7 grandchildren and my 3 children. There is 36 people that we have to, we look forward to at Christmas. And it has gotten, because we're getting bigger. And so what we've been doing was spending the time on Christmas at my nephew's house, but we've kind of outgrown that. So this year we did we rented, everybody did their own nuclear Christmas. And then the day after Christmas, we rented a small hall at our park district, and we continued to have that occasion and that tradition. And it was wonderful. Typically what we do, and we've done this for many years, is the 3 oldest children, the daughters, plan the games for the little kids and the adults. And it's usually based on music, and it's usually based on, a card game, but all 30 plus of us play with the family games, and we have a blast. So we want to keep that tradition going. And now, and we do a summer event too. So we try to get together at least twice a year with the extended family. My children were very, very fortunate to grow up across the street from 3 of their 3 cousins. We lived on the same block. I lived directly across the street from my sister for 22 years. And at one point, the kids thought they were brothers and sisters, I'm sure. But that really developed a bond with them that I think is everlasting. And we were just lucky to have that. So if possible, having family reunions with extended family members is important for our children to know their roots. We need to set our own rules. As children grow and their interaction with the world expands beyond their immediate family, they'll be expected to adjust to different environments. Think of school, a concert, a job interview, all placing varied expectations on their behavior. Your home might well be the grandchild's first experience of this, providing them with valuable opportunity to practice meeting gradually different expectations. These lessons can last a lifetime. As a teenager, my eldest daughter often accompanied her recently widowed grandmother to cultural events. She said she was forever grateful that her grandmother taught her the basic etiquette around introductions. Look at the person in the eye, say hello, use that person's name. I'm pleased to meet you. So we really can teach a lot to our children by setting some rules. And yes, anything goes at grandma's house, but we have to have boundaries. What does this mean, practice benign neglect? It really is one of my favorite terms. The point here is that the children do not need to be continually organized, amused, educated, or supplied with materials. I know that the time has long gone when a whole street's children would be told to go outside and play and only come in when it gets dark. However, there are many places on the continuum between that extreme and the other extreme of over-organization and constant supervision. A child daydreaming under a tree with a book nearby, 2 or 3 children developing a unique game with complicated rules using leaves, sticks, and grandpas might come in handy. But these are beautiful things and so developmentally valuable. Importantly, parking a child in front of a TV or a digital device does not count as benign in any of my grandparenting expectations. As a matter of fact, when the kids come here, I have two little iPads. I have a very old one that's just about to die, and that's the only one the kids can play on. And it has games on that. But we don't do any of that until we've done other things. I bought a bunch of board games, and we play a lot of board games when the kids come over. We play cards. We play a game called Joker, and this is an easy one if you have a deck of cards. It's really like Old Maid, and the kids haven't figured this out yet. But I take a deck of cards and I remove one of the jokers, and whoever ends up with the joker at the end of the game is the loser. So yeah, it's like Old Maid. But we play those games. I have them when the weather's nice. We go in the backyard, and I obviously can't play soccer with them, but I can kick a ball a little bit. I can watch them play with their siblings when they are playing soccer in the backyard. They play hide and seek. I want them to use their imagination. So, but it's on a day when we've really done all of that, and we need some quiet time. When they ask for that iPad, and I say yes, but there's days that I say no, not today. I think it's important that we really are ourselves. You might be tempted to bond with your grandchildren by adapting your own speech and behavior to be more like theirs. However, I say use your own language and be yourself. Don't try to use the current slang. By the time you have some idea of what it means, you probably will be out of date anyways. But more importantly, being true to yourself, you can expand the vocabulary of your grandchildren and introduce them to new words and traditional sayings. We just had this conversation with my grandson because we were talking about slangs. And I said, do you know what it means when it says it's raining cats and dogs? And they went like, no, I heard that once, but I don't know what that's about. And so I went on to tell them, we looked it up. Yeah, I knew what it was, but I said, let's look it up, and you can look at the slang here. And it went back to the old English days when dogs and cats slept on thatched roofs. And if it would rain outside and they were outside sleeping on the thatched roof, they would slide off the roof. And so it was raining cats and dogs. And they got a good chuckle out of that. And we looked up a couple more that were slangs that were kind of funny. So You need to keep up to date enough to retain some credibility. Unobtrusive listening when your grandchildren are talking to each other or with their friends can open little windows to their world. So keep on good terms with your grandchildren's parents. It's important to keep on the best possible term with them. It's vital to keep, this is important for both the child and your own child and your grandchild, I'm sorry. The more the parents see you being as on their side, ready to help and unlikely to criticize, the better chance you're going to have of keeping close to your grandchild. Praising this amazing child will be easy, but remember that praising her parents is equally important. And there's been a couple times where I've said to my kids, you're really doing a good job. I like your parenting approach. And there's been other times when the kids haven't been around where I've said, do you think it could have been a little bit easier on them? Just looking on the outside looking in. And if they say no, then you back off. Think back to yourself as a young mother or father who made you feel confident, and what did they say? Specific praise is always the most effective. So something such as, look at how she's sharing her berries. You're doing a great job at teaching her how to share will work. There are 3 important things to acknowledge frequently. First, that the baby, that child is unique. If you have more than one child yourself, you know that as well. Secondly, that the world is now very different from your early parenting days. And third, that parenting can be exhausting. So your experience as a parent will, of course, mean that you have lots of excellent advice to give, but don't. Unless directly asked for advice, it is patronizing and can be alienating. Instead, wait for a calm, maybe an impromptu moment, and present your experience as a question or a story. So again, I didn't say you need to be. I said, do you think you were a little harsh? Or does that approach work for you? And listen to what they have to say. You also need to create distance when creating distance when recalling family stories. So the greater this distance is going to reduce the likelihood of your observation being taken too personally or as criticism. When I was a parent or when Aunt Jenny was a parent, this happened. So again, using your old stories may not be, it's not going to work well for you. So the simplest toy, one which even the youngest child can operate, is called a grandparent. And they can operate us, that's for sure. We want to establish and maintain traditions. Family traditions, activities, food, celebrations, and games enhance solidarity and feelings of belonging. Some Italian families love their gatherings for making fish on Christmas or Easter cookies. In my family, the grandkids love Halloween, so I always host a kid-friendly Halloween party every year. And it's quite interesting because, again, I have a 17-year-old all the way down to a 7-year-old. But I had a knee replacement done on October 30th, so I did not host a Halloween party this year, and the kids made mention of that. Because I'll create games for them, we decorate pumpkins, and we finish it off with a taco bar. Easy to make, kids can come and eat when they want. But these traditions can be especially important when your cultural heritage is different from surrounding ones. It'll help your grandchildren to appreciate and connect with their roots. So consider what traditions, activities, words, or songs you can use to stimulate and enrich the lives of your grandchildren. Family sayings are another way of bonding. A large family I know have the surname Dunn and are fond of saying warmly to each other, well done. Your family name may not be so easily led to a neat phrase, but you can look for opportunities to use modifications or symbols creatively. So, coming up with a family name or something. Remember that as a grandparent, you're the centerpiece of several generations, and the family stories you heard as a child will stretch even farther back in time. This really puts you in a unique place to tell stories about the past, stories about real people from whom you are all connected. My kids love to hear what stories are still available to us. My father-in-law was in the resistance in World War II, and he ended up living in a foxhole for almost 6 months. And the kids would ask him growing up to talk about that. And, I can tell you even till today that he would get to a part in the story where he finally came out of the foxhole and he hadn't eaten really anything but leaves and figs and berries that whole time. And he found a bakery that was blown out, and there was one piece of stale bread left in the window. And he picked it up, he dusted the glass off, and he was going to sit down and eat it. And a little girl came by with her mother, and they were starving too. And he gave the bread to them. And he would weep at this point of the story. And my kids really learned a lot about their grandfather through that story, his resilience and his kindness. So it's really important to uphold any of those stories that you hear and you think are appropriate for them. Think about every day what practical skills, life skills your grandchildren will need when they're adults. Just about all children love cooking and gardening, so that's the best place to start. My grandkids, when they were little, are not so much. Well, last year they still like to pick the things from the garden, but they would love to go out there with a bowl and start picking our tomatoes and our cucumbers. Of course, it takes longer, and it does make more of a mess sometimes to teach a child things such as making cookies, or if you're into woodworking. But these are basic skills that will get passed on to them. Such activities won't be easy to share in distant relationships, but creative grandparents will find ways. So, when my sister has the family, the 3 girls that live out of state, when that's one of the things that she does when she goes to visit them at Thanksgiving is they make cookies every year. So, you have to look and peel away that time. Give symbols of yourself. I think that's really important whether your grandchildren are near or far, they will like to have something concrete to remind them of you. I once heard an interview with an international musician who asked if he had anything that he always put in a suitcase when he was going on tour. And he said, yes, it's one of those wooden spoons with a hole in the middle. And the interviewer kind of looked at him like, what? And he said, it was my granny's. A grandfather I know had a grandchild, gave him a chess set after teaching him to play. And now they have long distance games regularly. If you have craft skills, don't be afraid to use them for gifts. They might not be trendy, but it might be comforting and nostalgic and trigger those happy memories. My one sister is a crafter, and every year for Christmas, everybody gets a craft, kids included. And for the first 5 years that we would have this big Christmas gathering, she would ask that they had 2 tables set up where the kids actually made the crafts. So when they were younger and they would want to sit and, and do crafts, they were able to do that. Tips for grandchildren of all ages. Spend time with them in person, on Zoom or FaceTime. Keep up with technology. And again, have them help you. Share family stories, recipes, and photos, and label those old photos. I know from when my mom and dad both passed, there was stuff maybe written on the back of them, but a lot of photos did not have anything on them. Read to them and with them. And if you connect on social media, Don't post anything that might be embarrassing to them. And I will tell you, in that preteen and teenager age, most everything's embarrassing to them. Whenever possible, share experiences with them. Go to the theater, take a train to Chicago. If you have young ones, there's the Choo Choo in Des Plaines that has the train that goes around the restaurant. There's also one in Bartlett that the train comes around and serves you your food. Not exceptional food, it's kid food, but the kids loved going there when they were little. The other place that my grandsons loved to go, although I was glad that they finally grew out of it because it was getting pretty expensive, is the Auto Museum in Volo. That you can do for a whole day. And if you go on a nice spring or fall day, they have a great outside area too that's free, but they also have a dinosaur museum. And but it can get a little pricey. So again, you can do something like that. Going to the zoo, going to a park. One of the things that we do that is free, and my kids, even to this day, they still love doing it, is we have a pond about a couple blocks away from our house that have ducks in it. So we buy bird food at the beginning of the summer, and we put them in cups and we walk, or baggies, and we walk to the pond and we feed the ducks for a couple hours. And they really enjoy that. And even as they're getting older, they still like that. Be tolerant and not judgmental, and ask questions to clarify, and respect the rules set by their parents. Eating or not eating certain foods, not eating on the couch or in the car, wearing bike helmets, wearing their car seats and their seat belts, what is their appropriate bedtime, and allowing them to call home if a sleepover becomes uncomfortable. You always have to let the kids know that they're kind of in charge of where they want to be. That makes them feel safe. So if they're no longer feeling safe, and it's probably not you, it's just being in a different surrounding, this usually happens more with smaller grandchildren, then they may not be ready for that. And that might be one of the things that you know. For if you have babies and toddlers, remember that children learn through repetition. So read that book again and again, or watch that movie for 100th time. I could probably tell you every line that was from Frozen, because my one that just turned 14 years old, that was popular when she was 3. So, we played it over and over, and she had her own little mic, and she would dress up as the Frozen princess, and she would sing every song. Read to them often. It's how they develop language. And play with them. Play is a fundamental developmental activity, and children today often don't have enough free time for imaginative play, which is how we develop. We have forgotten that. Have a tea party with them, or build things with blocks or Legos. It's the interaction and the attention that's really important. Ages 5 to 12, try to focus on activities and experiences. And they're playing Jenga. It's one of the kids' favorite games because it crashes, it makes noises, and they like trying to get that last one out when they know the next one who touches it is going to make the tower fall. Limit that screen time, please. Find old board games and play with them. We have now banned Sorry from our board game. If you've ever played Sorry, you advance, and then if you pick up a card, you can take someone else and put them back to start. And the kids get so annoyed when they get back to start, and then they started fighting. So one ran into the front room, the other ran into my bedroom. They ended up both crying, and I was like, this isn't fun anymore. So we, the 4 of us, my husband and the 2 boys, decided that Sorry was now banned from our playtime. We're not doing Sorry anymore. Learn about their favorite music, sports stars, and share your favorites with them. Look for similarities and difference, but don't be judgmental. And again, try to attend their activities, their sports games, band concerts, plays, dance recitals. My one granddaughter is in dance, and they don't ask anybody where the acts are going to be, and she might be in one act or maybe two acts, but you have to sit through 45 different acts of kids that you don't know to see that 4 minutes of your grandchild on that stage. But that grandchild knows you're out there, and that's the important thing. So it is a good time to get a little nap, though, before they go on. High school, really just be there for them whenever it's possible. Again, go to their plays, their sporting events and band concerts. Look for common ground in music. We've been having a lot of fun with my 17-year-old granddaughter. She's a very artistic and very musical, much like my son. And she really likes music from the 60s. So she's a big Beatle fan, a big Rolling Stone fan. Queen, she loves that. And then she liked this band called Arctic Monkey. So we looked that up, and, it was not music that I liked. Now she's into Korean, into that K-pop, and I'm not sure why, but that seems to be the big trend. Because we knew that she liked this music, and it's very expensive to go to a concert. One of the things we did, and you can find this on the internet, is these candlelight concerts in Chicago. It's called Fever, and it's different types of music, and the tickets are usually $30 to $40. So it's much better than going to a big concert. Who can afford that nowadays? But it's $30 to $40 a ticket. And it's usually in a small venue like a church or a old mansion. And this one we went to was in the Stan Mansion in Chicago. And the music, the instruments that they play at these concerts are all string instruments. So, and the group that they were focusing on was Queen. So we invited my granddaughter to come, and she said, well, could her boyfriend Kyle come with? So we did end up paying for another ticket, but I wanted her to feel that she felt comfortable enough to ask us, and we didn't say no. We had a wonderful time. We went to eat something first, and then we went to this concert at the Stan Mansion, and it's all done by candlelight, but the candles are fake candles, so you don't have to worry about the place burning down. And it was an hour plus of Queen music, but it's all done by string instruments. So it really is more concert and classical. It was absolutely beautiful. And in between each little set, they explained a little bit something about Queen, a little tidbit of information. And the kids talked about that all the way home. They loved it, and they wanted to go back and do another one. So we're looking forward to doing another one this summer. So that's something that isn't terribly expensive, but again, just spending time with them in the backyard and letting them play their guitars is something that is free. So you don't have to spend money. Once they get in college and they're going away, that, things are going to be different. I think asking them how they prefer to stay in touch and when it's convenient for them, and it may change from semester to semester depending on their class schedule. But I will tell you, snail mail is novel to them. They do everything through text. And so it might be a nice surprise for them to get a card or a letter from you. Don't mail them birthday presents if they live in the same town. Ask them for a visit. And do not expect thank you notes from this younger generation. They don't do that. It's just a new way of living. If they say thank you on a text or they say thank you verbally, I accept that. I came from the generation where you sent a thank you card. And so that was very difficult for me. But I learned very quickly that they were gracious when they said thank you, and I was going to be happy with that. Long distance grandparenting can be difficult. I know that because I have a sister, like I said, who does 4 of her grandchildren at a distance. One lives in Colorado with 3 grandchildren, and another one lives in Montana with 1 child. So they talk all the time. The grandkids do call her because she called them enough that now they started to call her. If you're going to FaceTime, know that it's not going to be an hour conversation. Not many people like FaceTime. I mean, you don't get a good picture of yourself, and the little kids, they get distracted. So FaceTime is going to be 2 minutes. You're actually better picking up the phone and talking to them. Try to visit as much as possible. For some people, it's easier. Some people, it's financially more difficult. But for your young children, you can make a recording of yourself reading a favorite book or a story and send that to the child with a copy of the book. And then travel with them if possible. There's independent trips or something that's called Road Scholar. I don't know if many of you have ever heard of that. It is a program that is more of a learning vacation. They're actually quite wonderful. And there's Road Scholar programs that are designed for grandparents and grandchildren. And when they're old enough to travel, that might be something. But I would say those are a little pricey too. So hopefully you've gotten some tips on grandparenting. If you have any tips on grandparenting. So thank you for joining us today on Connecting for Grandparents. I hope that there's some tips and techniques that we got in there that would be helpful for you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.